Welcome to this explainer for Blackwater Honey's is Beekeeping for You series. I'm so glad you're here with me today. We're going to tackle a question that honestly puzzles almost every single new beekeeper. When exactly should you add another box? Today, we're ditching that vague 70 to 80% rule of thumb and replacing it with a rock-solid whole colony framework for adding space. So let's dive right in. So new beekeepers are almost always told to add a box when the hive is 70 or 80% full. But we really have to stop and ask, full of what exactly? Are we talking full of bees, brood, nectar, untouched foundation? Listen, adding a box is a deliberate management choice. It is absolutely not just a calendar date. A simple percentage alone just isn't enough. We need to see the complete picture of the colony. To make all this digestible, we'll break it down into these clear steps, moving beyond the percentage rule, defining your hive's needs, running through a readiness checklist, choosing the right box, avoiding common mistakes, and finishing up with a seasonal spacing guide. Section 1. Beyond the percentage rule, identifying the actual job the new box must do. First things first, you've got to pinpoint this specific need. Is your queen completely running out of room, meaning she needs brood expansion? Or maybe your foragers are desperate for nectar storage during a rapid flow. You might be adding space so the colony can retain food reserves for the winter, or maybe you're trying to manage swarm pressure. Though a quick reality check here. Just adding a box won't guarantee swarm prevention if they've already started preparations. And hey, sometimes the answer is actually no added volume at all. If they can't actively defend the space, you should leave the hive exactly as it is. Section 2. Defining your hive's needs, speaking the language of the comb. To really understand what's going on, we have to define our terms. Let's start with occupied. When you're out there inspecting, remember that a frame is only truly occupied if the bees are densely covering it and actively working it. Just a light scattering of bees casually walking across the wax, yeah, that definitely does not equal full occupation. Now, there is a massive difference between drawn comb and untouched foundation. Think of drawn comb as your ready-to-go inventory. It has complete wax cells that the queen or foragers can use right this second. Foundation, on the other hand, is literally just potential space. It forces the bees to secrete wax, and considering it takes about 8 pounds of honey for them to produce just 1 pound of wax, building out comb demands incredible nutrition, warmth, and a really strong population. They are absolutely not the same thing. And finally, saying a frame is full is just way too vague. You really must differentiate between comb that is completely filled and capped with honey or nectar versus open-laying comb. Open-laying comb features those beautifully polished empty worker cells that are actually ready and waiting for the queen to lay eggs in. Section 3. The readiness checklist, a systematic approach to hive evaluation. Instead of just staring at a single box, we have to evaluate the entire colony, check the adult population density, look at the capped brood trajectory, meaning is a massive workforce about to suddenly emerge? Verify your usable comb, and check if the queen is running out of room. You also need to factor in incoming forages, local blooms, and the upcoming weather. Ensure the colony is healthy, queen right, and managing mite levels. And always consider the time until your next inspection. If they're absolutely booming today, they might run totally out of space before you even return. Section 4. Choosing the right box. Matching equipment to the colony's demand. Okay, so you have to match the box to the specific purpose you identified earlier. You'd add a brood box to support a booming adult population and to keep that brood momentum going strong. On the flip side, you add a honey super strictly to provide storage space for incoming nectar, and you usually do this right before the peak flu hits. Just be careful not to confuse the two purposes. You also really need to understand your own equipment. Keep your internal setup consistent. An 8-frame box reaches high utilization at just 6 frames, which means it fills up much faster and is going to require you to make vertical space decisions more frequently. A 10-frame box holds more comb and hits that target around 7 frames. Basically, do the math on the frames. Don't just guess the percentage. Now, whether you top super or bottom super is entirely your call, depending on your management style. Top supering means you avoid lifting super heavy filled boxes during your inspections. Bottom supering places that empty space closer to the bee's natural workflow. Oh, and a super quick note on optional queen excluders. If you use one, monitor it closely to make sure the bees are actually crossing it. And never ever leave it on for the winter because that is a surefire way to strand your queen. Section 5. Avoiding common mistakes, the consequences of poor timing. Adding space is basically a delicate tightrope walk. Provide it too early, and you force the bees to heat way too much volume, which just invites pests like wax moths and small hive beetles to move right in. Add it too late, and you restrict the brood, spark swarm pressure, and likely cost yourself a honey harvest. Adding too much space all at once leaves the comb totally unguarded. And providing the wrong kind of space, like slapping a shallow honey super on top of a completely honey-bound brood nest, well, that just won't give your queen the open laying room she desperately needs. And here is a non-negotiable safety rule for your harvest. You must never, ever feed syrup into harvest supers. Unless your specific system strictly prevents adulterating the honey, feeding syrup while your supers are on means you are not harvesting pure honey. Simple as that. Section 6. Seasonal Spacing Guide. Adapting to the nectar flow timeline. Because we absolutely do not use universal calendar dates in beekeeping, local climates vary so wildly, right? Your strategy has to shift dramatically throughout the year. In early spring, you're evaluating if they can still cover the brood during those cold nights. In the pre-flow weeks, ensure that emerging brood won't completely outpace the comb before you check on them again. During the peak and late flow, keep a close eye on how fast those supers are filling up. But when that tricky summer dearth hits, you must cautiously reduce space to protect the hive against robbing and pests. By the time the fall flow rolls around, you're making the big decision. Are these stores for your harvest, or are they vital for the bees' winter survival? Section 7. Pre-winter consolidation, transitioning from expansion to security. You really don't want to leave empty boxes on the hive just because the stack looks small to you. You must consolidate down to a defensible, food-adequate configuration. But how exactly do you calculate that incredibly delicate balance between having enough winter food and having too much empty, freezing space? That puzzle is exactly what we tackle next, preparing your beehives for fall and winter.